have the honor to talk to you about the FDA Advisory Committee meetings that were held September 8th and 9th in Gaithersburg, Maryland at the Holiday Inn. It was the Obstetrics and Gynecology Devices panel of the Medical Devices Advisory Committee, so ADCOM. They were there to discuss the safety and effectiveness of transvaginal mesh for POP and SUI. The panel was convened in conjunction, of course, with the new FDA PHN, or Public Health Notification, we also call them safety alerts, of July 13, 2011, as well as FDA's white paper regarding these new safety concerns since the safety alert in 2008. What happened between 2008 for the first safety alert and a mere 2.5 years later when the second safety alert came out? Well, prior to 2008, approximately 120 different products were cleared through the 510K process for SUI and POP. And between 2008 safety alert and 2010, 50 more products went on the market and were cleared. That is 50% as many that had been cleared in the previous 10 years. What else occurred between these two safety alerts other than these clearances increasing drastically? Well, according to FDA, approximately 500,000 women per year underwent POP and SUI repairs, split evenly between the two. On average, over 250,000 women per year had mesh placed in their bodies transvaginally for these procedures. A third of them were POP. 3/4 of those were done transvaginally. So 60,000 transvaginal mesh surgeries for POP per year on average from the first safety alert to the second one, and that was a rising number. So the FDA believes that the overall increase of serious adverse event reports was cause for concern. What they didn't mention, but that was touched upon a couple of times over those 2 days, was latency. And as I've met with a number of experts, it's interesting to them as well as to me, and it was brought up a few times at FDA, and that is, in the late 90s, you get the slings first getting cleared, okay? And in 2000, 2003, you start to see the POP kits going on the market. It makes sense if you look at the science in line with the amount of increasing complications and the AERs are being reported. When you have this cheese grater effect that Henry talked so eloquently about, when you have a piece of plastic that's hardening in already weakened vaginal tissue, native tissue, it's not getting better, especially for the younger women. They have a piece of plastic that's hardening, and they have vaginal tissue that is deteriorating and worsening. So you're having a greater chronic inflammatory response. You're having more complications the longer these things are in. And a lot of these women that stood in front of FDA in tears, and I mean, it brought us to tears when you heard these stories from these women. These were real stories. It broke my heart to hear what they had to say. But they said this didn't happen in the perioperative period in 6 months. It didn't happen within a year. It was 2, 3, 5, and sometimes even 10 years out. And all these daggone studies were in the perioperative period, 6 months, looking at anatomical outcomes. So it's no surprise that as they were in longer and you began to see these products on the market for 5 or 6 years, all of a sudden, here come the AERs increasing. Very little was mentioned about that, but I think we need to focus on that throughout our litigations. The panel consisted of 18 members. Only 17 voted because typically the guy running the panel, the chairman, doesn't vote. Only 8 of them were clinicians who actually put these in or have put them in. 5 of the panel members were from completely other fields. And I know I'm not trying to sound naive because I know that sometimes happens, but when you have a lot of urogynecologists and a lot of urologists out there and OBGYNs, why wouldn't you put more of them on the panel? Instead, we have folks from the fields of radiological devices, plastic surgery, and ophthalmic devices. I'm not sure what ophthalmic devices have to do with the vagina, but I'm sure FDA does. What was interesting, though, is where was urology in all this? Urology was not represented on the panel, and it did not sit well with some of the organizations like SUFU. So it was very odd that you would have a plastic surgeon but no urologist on the panel. Day 1 was devoted entirely to POP. It was all about prolapse. 22 persons presented. on the first day. And these were, yes, there were some success stories. Some women who had been encouraged by industry through the doctors that work with industry to get up and to say that hadn't had problems. Sure, there's obviously, if we have a 30% complication rate, 18% complication rate, whatever that is, there's a large number of women that don't have a problem. But this product was designed to make, we would hope, to make sure that there was a very, very low complication rate. We don't have that. So yeah, there are going to be some success stories, but the stories of failure were devastating. These women who were pushed in on wheelchairs, who could barely walk, who sat for hours and hours in those seats, and a lot of them had traveled across the country on their own dime, by the way. A lot of them didn't have a job anymore because they couldn't work anymore. They rode in cars together and had to stop and be able to get out and stretch their legs, because sitting down in the car caused so much pain. But they were there, and they listened intently, and they took notes. And they stood before that panel, and they said exactly how they felt.